Mr. Benja, man, are you super excited about Dune? The late
No,
movie.
I am not because I don't care to watch it on the big screen. Old boy says for these movies, I'll be just fine watching it on my tablet or my phone if I have to get that bad. I don't care.
So, Mr. Benja, I braved the elements and went out there and saw
Oh,
Dune 2 on the big IMAX screen. Denis Villeneuve, I think that's how you pronounce it, director of Dune, Blade Runner, Arrival, great director.
yes,
And
yes.
he's just super excited about Dune. Matter of fact, there's rumors this is going to be a trilogy. So I saw the first one, Mr. Benja, and I get why people all hype about it. Came out in 1965, about over 10 years before the book itself, excuse me, came out
Mhm.
1965, about 10 years or so before Star Wars. So there's a lot of good stuff in there in Dune. And also it's just more complex stories. I get it, it's sci-fi, but it's a little weird sci-fi to me, right? Well, I think I like my sci-fi a little bit more simplistic, and that's why I'm maybe a Star Wars fan. But I get it. I get it. I get what they're doing with Dune. So we don't have to get into the discourse of what Dune's all about here, but maybe we'll do a Dune episode if the people want it. But yeah, so I went ahead and seen Dune 2, and it's weird. It's this Dune 2 is a weird movie because it's the most weirdest sci-fi. If you watched the 1984, we talked
Yeah.
about this before. 84 movie is weird. And this one's weird. You got sand snakes, you got these crazy groups. You got this thing called Spice and this planet called Arachnus, and you got this Messiah prophecies, and you got these women who are witches who are controlling things behind the scene. It
Yeah.
just got a lot of little stuff in there. And but mixed with that, this is like high Hollywood. They got the new stars of Hollywood, the Timothy Chalamets, the Zendayas, this Austin Butler guy who got Academy nomination for Elvis. All these cats used to be like Disney stars. We saw
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
grow up on TV, and now they're pushing them to the next generation of movie them. And this is like their first big kind of movie, and they're coordinating. These are your stars in this weird ass fi movie. So it's just weird, man. So it's like, who is this for? I don't know if you saw some of the social media posts. It has Zendaya out there giving looks, man. She was like dressed in everything you
So
can imagine.
you know what? I've been just like checking out fashion lately, not like really getting into it like I used to be, but I keep my eye on the fashion scene, and I kept seeing Zendaya show up, and I think she might have been the only reason Dune was even on my mind because the starfish looking popcorn bucket, that's my grab the popcorn imagery. That
Yeah.
that suspect popcorn bucket made me turn off from Dune. I was like, "All right, whatever." But now we got Zendaya out there, and I was like, "Hmm, oh yeah, Dune's coming out. Oh yeah." So for the
It
people who are
works.
always looking out for the stars and the actors and the fashions, it works because it worked on me.
It's just funny. This is like they're trying to Hollywood's trying hard, right? They got to get new stars in here. You got the Tom Cruises and the Denzel Washington. Remember, we talked about this. The latest, the most popular stars are all in their like 50s and 60s now. And so there's this big gap. They haven't really created new movie stars. So now they're trying to get these 20-year-olds into all these different movies and push them more. And so this is an interesting phase. Personally, I think it might be a little too late because I think, a lot of these kids, a lot of these people like my kids know who Zendaya is, right? They grew up watching her on Disney Channel and some of these other actors, but I don't think kids care about movies. So
No.
I don't think it's cool for us. You're like, okay, that used to be the little kid, but it's really hard when you see the actor grow up as a kid. Maybe that was like some other actors too back in the day, but then they're doing like sex scenes or something mature. I don't know if I want to watch that.
Has that ever happened to me? I wanna say it has, but I can't think of the moment where I was just like,
They're cute girl, beautiful woman, but it's just I can't see her in a sex scene. I seen her on Shake It Up, or when she was 12 years old in Disney Plus. Yeah, I was just like, "Ugh, I can't watch this." So anyway, I digress. But Dune 2, definitely visually stunning, as you can imagine. A lot of money went into this, and interesting storyline about political unrest and what does it mean to fulfill prophecy and all that. But I thought it was just a little too repetitive at times. You're just in the sand a lot.
Yeah.
It is a desert planet, but just like overly too much. But definitely, if you like movies, this is visually stunning. He even has a whole black and white segment when you're in the stadium, and it's just like black and white. And he took it old school. It's just little mix of flair, and then people giving even the outfits are like high fashion.
Yeah.
So it's like the storyline is complex, the visual template is complex. So it's okay, this is a blockbuster now. So I get it. It may not be for me.
Listen, I get flamed for this kind of stuff because I'll say something like, "Oh, no, I wouldn't wear that, but it looks fine on you. It looks fine on you." I'll say stuff like that, and people will think I think they dress bad or something. I'm like, "No, it's just not my thing." And I don't people just don't express that kind of stuff. So when I'm looking at Dune, I'm like, "Oh, no, this is quality. I see how it's well constructed, nicely made. It's got this and that going for it. Very strong with the visual representation and the storytelling between moving shots in a frame and the way just all this stuff." I'm like, "Okay, that's very cool." I don't care. I don't wanna see it. It's just like, after the first Dune, I was like, "Wow, that was cool." But it's just not my thing. Like, I like it on paper, and I actually think the story itself is cool. But, yeah, the whole, Disney vibe on it it's great quality stuff, not for me.
The analogy I like to think is, okay, let's say you have all these little knobs you can turn on the movie, right?
Mhm.
You got the color palette, you the visual representation. Oh, I'll turn that to 10. But then the characters are like 7 or 6. Or you have the fashion sense, it's like a 5 or 6. But oh, the sound, I'm gonna turn that to a 10. It's gonna be, oh, we're gonna hear some great sounds. It's like Dune, they turned every dial to 10. It's like the sound, the visual template,
Yeah,
the characters, the complexity. It's like everything's just a 10. You're like, oh my God. The storytelling, there's characters here, there's characters in this corner. He's flying around. He's a big bloated dude, the
yeah,
Baron, and flown around. He's sunk in mud. He's killing people. You got fights. You got like people, it's coming out the sand, attacking. Yes, it's too much. Can we turn one thing down on the dial? Just
yeah.
maybe have it more simplistic storytelling, or maybe just
So, you know what? Usually you try to go very, very broad with a lot of you're picking up a lot of things, or you're going very deep. Like, you only pick one little aspect, like the character dialogue, the political backstory, intrigue, or whatever, and you go down that hole, and everything else suffers and bends its will to that one thing.
Mhm.
But when you have multiple things really hitting on a extreme level, it's hard to I don't want to say process, but
Mhm.
it's just hard to say, "Hey, what's this about?" And you're like, "Hey, it's just a lot. It's a lot."
That's
It's
Dune
like
in a nutshell.
it's like
Hey, it's
I,
just a lot. It's just a lot.
I went to
It was a
dinner.
lot in
Yeah,
'84. It was a lot in
yeah,
'84. Imagine now.
yeah,
It was a lot in '84, and so now here we are in 2024. It's a lot.
yeah.
So
So,
anyway, but I liked it, but it's definitely complex for a weird blockbuster movie.
hmm. Yeah, it's funny. There were these. I'm watching these reactors go through Game of Thrones, and they're talking about. They're not analysts of shows. They're not reviewers, but when they watch it, they're the Octobers, by the way. When they're watching, they pick up on all this little stuff. Like, hey, you notice how they're using all the outfits and like this and that? Yeah. Did you notice he just threw his outfit down and put on a cloak and never put that first outfit on again? I was like, oh, there's just all kinds of stuff going on in that show that I didn't think of. Very detail oriented.
Except for the last season.
Oh, right.
They just threw all that out the window. All that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a Starbucks cup in it. Who cares? No one's gonna watch it. I think the last season, they threw all that complexity out. Well, yeah, I think when you're doing a series, though, yes, the Dune was like I think it's better for a series. It's so complex that yeah, you can spread
Mm,
that out. You can let stuff breathe more because they introduced the Sting character, right, the Baron's nephew, right,
yeah.
in this movie in the Dune 2. I want to see more of him, his backstory and all that, but he basically pops up in like maybe 3 scenes, and then let's sit in that, and it's still a long movie. It's like almost 3 hours, but I think Dune is better. It's so complex that it's better maybe as a TV show, in my opinion. And they
Like
did something like that, like an Avatar or
Andor.
yeah, even Andor. That goes to show you, man. So, but see, Andor did the reverse, right? So it's like
Okay.
Star Wars is simplistic
Okay.
story, right? Movie blockbuster. We all get it. Young farm boy becomes the savior of the galaxy. But then Andor went back in and just found the complexity. Like, how do they make the Death Star? There's one little piece on the Death Star. And who are those people? And how do you build a rebellion? And now is making Star Wars more rich. And maybe that's the better approach. Create a blockbuster that's easily digestible and then go in. Or even the thing about the MCU, right? They have the complexity of the comic books over what 60, 70 years of
Okay.
comic books, and then they condense it down to something that's digestible in the movie. Because I don't think complexity
Okay.
is it's hard to do complexity when you turn all the dials up to 10. You can do complexity in movies, but it's got maybe be one. Like for instance, if you've seen Arrival, right? I don't know. Did you see that movie? Didn't
Yes,
Dennis
yes, I saw it.
did about the aliens that come in. Everything was it was a stable, nothing was turned up to 10. The only thing that was turned up to 10 was the concepts of time travel, and that made it easily digestible. Tenet is borderline, right? Because it's like they turn up the time travel and they turn up the action. I know I'm going after your sacred cow here. It's a borderline, but
Yeah, yeah.
with characterization, come on, that was down. Do we even know what the protagonist's name was? No. Do we care?
No, yeah, exactly.
If he was the protagonist, he was out here shashaying and being extra, you're like, "Oh, okay, this is too much." And you got the whole time trap and all that kind of stuff. It'd be too much. So anyway, uh, thanks for having this conversation, Mr. Benja, and thank you guys for listening because I think this is just it's helping me brainstorm my ideas of why Dune didn't sit well with me, and I think it's really about complexity and storytelling, and some formats may not be used to having that much complexity across all the different levels, if that makes sense.